Hi, this is Ed from SGUTV. Today I'm going to be going over de novo, or making from scratch, purine synthesis. So this particular topic today will be covered with a picmonic style or sketchy style instructional method where I use a picture to help you remember the pathway. And I just want to add at this time that we're going to have another video that comes out that reviews those particular product lines, so please be sure to check that out. Alright, let's get into this. First of all, let's talk about purines and what they exactly mean. We can usually use the common memorization tool, cut the pie, pure as gold. So when we talk about purines, we're thinking about adenine, we're thinking about guanine, those two, alright? So moving on from there, let's start to get into our little story here. The first character we have here is RibBP, okay, ribose phosphate. Ribby, right? Frogs go ribbit. So we see this little guy here. He's got a halo on his head. That means he's kind of pure. Just to help you remember. Now, unfortunately, Ribby was invited to a rave, and he went to the rave and he tripped over this AMP. That means that AMP, or AMP, adenine monophosphate, will actually inhibit the pathway where he actually goes to the rave and he ends up sipping on perp. Perp is another name for promethazine, which is used in the streets as a recreational drug. If you know it, it'll help you remember. If you don't know it, well, now you know. Alright? You probably will be seeing this in emergency rooms and things like that, so it's good to have some idea what's going on. This is a widely used substance. Okay, so perp actually stands for phospholribosal phosphate. Now you can see over here that from perp we're going to go down towards this. Once he takes his perp, he falls asleep and he goes in this crazy little dream state. Over here he's going into a mine, and you can see that there's ribs on the mine, on the cave leading down, right? So this actually stands for phosphoribosylamine. And you say, oh, what about phospho? You forgot about that. Well, if you read Hound of the Baskervilles and Sherlock Holmes, you'll know that phosphorus was used as the agent to make things glow in the dark. So you can see the eyes here are kind of glowing here. It kind of looks like a snake, right? Snakes eat frogs or RibBP, so unfortunately he's going into a dark place. We're going to see what happens with this story. Also over here, this is a recurring character inside of our story. This is glutamine, right? Mean, because he's a mean little dwarf. And you can see actually he's urinating on this pathway right here. That's because in this particular pathway, glutamine is going to be donating a nitrogen. And we know that urine is a nitrogenous waste. So over here, this just helps us to remember this particular pathway. Also look at this. When I have all the rest of these arrows over here, this one is a very long arrow, right? This is his descent into this particular dream state crazy world. And this one is because we need to fill the space in. And this is actually regulated by ATP and GTP. High levels of ATP and GTP will actually inhibit the creation of phosphoribosylamine and therefore prevent the end product or the end production of adenine triphosphate and guanine triphosphate. And that's going to shut down production of proteins. So this is basically used usually for anti-cancer and for anti-immunological reasons. The thing is that those are the ones that turn over quickly. Those are the ones that are going to, your immunology, you're creating all those antibodies, and as in terms of cancer, they're just multiplying so fast that they will be more hurt by the shutoff of this particular adenine and guanine are parts of DNA, and you need DNA to make your proteins. Alright, so let's go on. He's descended into a dream state now, and now he meets this little character right here, a friendly little Disney-looking bat with a cat face for some reason. And this is actually glycine, right? It's gliding. You're going to look at picmonics. Sometimes they have a guy on a hang glider. Here we have him gliding on these wings. Remember who this character is? This is our good friend glutamine, okay? So the thing is that we start off with this particular substance, ribose phosphate. It looks like a pentagon, has a little phosphate hanging off. And then these carbons are added along this process usually it's carbons in this pathway after we go to the phosphoribosylamines. We're going to add carbon to the state, except for this one exception. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. So here we have glycine, and then we have glutamine donating its carbon. Now in this case, what is this right here? This is a nymph, okay? And you can see that she actually has these little, what is this? This is going to be some water skis, okay? So what this helps you to remember is that she's actually N, right? It's going to be N-formyl tetrahydrofolate. So N stands for the nymph, right? It's a female because it's something different about this particular part. The fact is that she's actually donating a nitrogen, not actually a carbon. So that's something to keep in mind, right? That she's different in this particular story, right? These things are kind of like monstrous, and she's kind of like, you know, appealing, I guess. All right. So let's continue on. We have donation of carbon from CO2, and then this over here is a gas mask. That's aspartate, right? You aspirate, you need an aspiration mask. This would be a gas mask. So the story goes like this. Ruby P goes into the mine. He meets his little buddy, glycine over here. He also meets this mean dwarf and his wife, N-formyl tetrahydrofolate. What happens is that this guy starts to become sick. He starts to become woozy. So they give him they grab a CO2 canister and they put the gas mask on him to try to revive him, because for some reason these particular types of dwarves, they do not actually breathe oxygen, they breathe carbon dioxide. He actually gets sick over here, and you can see that N-formyl tetrahydrofolate is all worried, right? And at this point, it's the addition of carbon from CO2, then from aspartate. In this case, it's N-formyl tetrahydrofolate that is actually donating the last nitrogen at this point. Now you see some other characters hanging around at this particular point, right? We have, tells you glutamine is not really actually participating in this particular step. He's just there to make a connection between the CO2 canister, which is the CO2, the aspartate, the gas mask, and then we have the N-formyl tetrahydrofolate. So it's just bringing the story together. But really want to focus on the lady right here. You can see over here that there's 6 mermen over here hanging out. That's weird, right? What's going on? And they're actually between this and this weird-looking character right here. I'm going to tell you what that is in a moment. This actually stands for 6-mercaptopurine, okay? So you can see there's 6-mercaptopurine. There's 6 mermen, right? Mercaptopurine. Over here, you can see that they have, this first guy has an A on top of his head, and this last guy has a Z on top of his head. What is that exactly standing for? That is going to be, okay, you can see over here there's an A, and you can see over here there's a Z. And it's easy to remember because this is the only time we have all 6 guys bunched up like that. So just remember A to Z, right? And this stands for azothiopurin. This is actually a inhibitory. It's going to prevent the movement of this particular molecule, which has had all these carbons and nitrogens added, to become IMP, inosine monophosphate. So this over here is actually a drawing of an imp. Okay, and in the story it goes that this guy gets sick in the mine and then he starts to transform into an imp. You see how these guys are trying to help out? They're trying to prevent the progression of this particular molecule into becoming an imp. Now we have the imp over here, and the imp can go one of 2 directions. It can become amped up, right? You can see he goes from he's transforming from this little, not particularly buff dwarf, into an imp, into a super imp, right? And that's actually AMP. He's amped up. Here we can see he's lost all his arms and legs. He became a GIMP, GMP, right? Now who's this big evil looking character standing between the imp phase and the GIMP phase, GMP, IMP, who's preventing IMP from turning into GMP? Well, this actually looks like a mushroom, right? And another word for mushroom is myco. Myco usually means mushroom or fungus. So this is myco, and we can see over here, there's these, what is that, right? Some kind of weird roots or something. Actually, those are ribs. And if we look at this closely again, it almost kind of looks like a virus, right? We have right, I drew the ribs coming out and then I drew the little legs coming down. And then I have, right, this could be the injection site. So actually it's mycorrhizovirin, right? Like virus. So that's just to help you remember that. And from here, it should be obvious that these guys over here from AMP, we're going to create ATP, right? And from GMP, we're going to create GTP. The last part to really remember about this whole entire story is that Ribby P, right? He's a water animal. And we want to wake him up. We want to get him out of his dream state. So what are we going to use in the final step to wake him up and bring it close to this whole entire story? Well, we can use hydroxyurea to prevent the transformation of AMP into ATP, and we can use hydroxyurea once again over here to prevent the transformation of GMP into GTP. That's pretty much the whole story, so I hope you've enjoyed. And please leave your comments, questions, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks again. Alright, that's it. Thanks for checking out SGU TV. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out our other videos.